What's up, everyone? It's Kanan.
It's Jesse.
And we are the Geeky Saying Couple, and welcome to our analysis of RWBY, Volume 9, Chapter 4, A Cat Most Curious. That title was not in the, was not on Crunchyroll when we did the reaction, so, this probably should have been up Tuesday, but, between work and problems with Crunchyroll, it took forever to get these screenshots, so props to Jess to getting all of them. She also wrote notes, so I would remember everything because last episode we did it on Tuesday and I had already forgotten stuff because of work and just all that, and it's Wednesday and this is going up on Thursday, so yeah, I've definitely forgotten a lot. Things have changed since our analysis back during Volume 7 and 8, where we had time to do them literally on Sunday. So yeah, little bit of bad news. Looks like I'm not going to be getting my good computer back. It's pretty much done. So I'm either going to have to save up and buy a new one or find a deal and make payments. So yeah, so Let's Plays from more recent games are going to be on hold for a while. Alright, so let's get into this episode. Starts off very lighthearted, ends very sad in a lot of ways. So a lot was hyped up for this episode by members of Crewbie, and we can see why. So this episode starts with Ruby looking for the cat. Because at the end of chapter 3, the cat ran off. Yang was like, follow that cat, And they went after it, and they're looking for it. And, Ruby's going, does Ruby say, here, kitty, kitty, kitty?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so stuff like that, saying the stuff normally when you are looking for your cat. And of course, Little is on edge this entire time because Little is a mouse, and what are mice usually scared of in cartoons? Cats. So, Little is not having it, but Little is the one that spots the cat, says that they are seeing a cat's
hindquarters.
Yeah, and they look over and you can see the cat's tail. Which Ruby says, is like, hey, excuse me, and the cat pops up and says...
Behind her,
Yeah. And,
so the tail's on one side.
Yeah.
Cat's on the other.
And, of course, the way this cat talks, he's very polite.
You're excused.
Yeah. And, she asks the cat what name, and, of course, when the cat pops up, Little screams and hides. And Ruby...
I liked this because... the cat, he just casually just walks across the road, and Ruby's just like, there's just literally like a pause, just trots right across the road to reconnect.
Yeah. And so Ruby asks the cat, what does he go by? And he says something along the lines of that the cat doesn't go by his real name, and that it belongs...
No, he says, because he had said, he doesn't go by. Because that belongs to the days and the years. So he doesn't say that's his name. She asked, Curious Cat, she kept asking variations of the name. And he said, I don't go by. So, and then he says, he is a cat most curious. So...
Yeah. And so they go into about the tree, Ruby explaining how nothing they try works on getting to the tree. Is this more about his name right here?
I think so.
Yeah.
There was a few different things, yeah.
Yeah, so this is more talking about... So, Y says it looks even farther away now, which Yang says... Probably because we're 6 inches tall. Because, when you're small...
Everything looks further away.
And looks bigger and everything. And Y says, well, it could be both.
And Little just...
is terrified. Little does not want anything to do with the cat, and the curious cat starts saying, that you don't go to the tree goes to you.
Unless, of course, you're me.
Yes. Now, there's already theories going around that the cat is actually the tree. So, who knows? That might be something. Um, so, we go into more about it, and he says that the problem is it's all about perspective. And Ruby asks if he can take them since he's been there before. And he says, why would he want to go back?
No sense in seeing a sight seen was exactly what he said. So, he's pretty much saying, well, I've already been there, so why would I want to go back? Like, yeah. Which, I mean, this is leading them to really think, okay, how can we do this? So,
which Blake pretty much is like, please, and then mentions Alex, which the cat is like, oh, how do you know Alex?
And starts asking a whole list of questions.
Well, he's like, don't tell me. Wait, yes, tell me.
I think I got that in Image too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't tell me. Yes. Wait. Yeah. Tell me.
Yeah. And then this is where they start telling him that the story of Alex was a book in their world, and he's like, was it well liked? He cares about
tons of questions about this book. Wanting to know everything about that was written in this book, and
yeah, Blake says it was a childhood favorite by everyone. Then he says he wants to know more, but then says, do I smell a mouse? And Little freaks out and hides under Yang's hair, which is very, very cute. And Blake even blocks him and says, from one cat to another, which I think
I just loved that too.
Which I think is the first time Blake has ever referred to herself as a cat. That if the cat can give them a minute. Which he sighs and says, oh, so...
Pretty much, so the mouse is already spoken for. Yeah. Like, okay. He just automatically gives up because the mouse is spoken for, so...
Yeah, it's like Blake has claimed Little because she's a cat faunus. And he says, please hurry, because he has so many questions. Which we learn very soon that, he's got a lot of questions. Now, this was cute. Weiss asks if they're sure that the cat is not called the constantly annoying cat. And the way she says it, she's very exasperated. She's like, are we sure their name's not the constantly annoying cat? She says it like that in a way. Which, Yang says, oh, totally roasted, does the finger gun thing. And Weiss says thank you, but it's very obvious Yang's being very sarcastic. Like, oh, wow, such a burn, But Weiss not picking up on the sarcasm because it's Weiss is really cute. This has created more freezer burn divorce jokes, and it's actually got a few more people shipping freezer burn, to tell you the truth. And Blake describes the cat in the book as an ally with an appetite for info. And like I kind of said in the reaction that it almost makes the cat sound like an information broker. You get info for info. And she says just because they don't want to go to the tree doesn't mean we can't lure the cat there, which seems kind of underhanded. I think the cat's way too smart for that.
But the thing is like they'll mention it again. You keep letting the cat ask questions. The cat's just gonna keep walking, keep going, giving more things. So it's a way to do this. So,
and which Ruby says that shouldn't be too hard. We've got so many stories.
We just gotta keep the cat's attention.
Yeah, which she's telling the truth. From volume 1 to now, they've got so much they could tell the cat. And
The cat's gone.
yeah, cat's gone. Yeah, Ruby's like, what? Where'd it go? Where'd it go? So Ruby says, we would be happy to answer all of your questions.
I had to catch this because this is just such cat.
Yeah, like the cat doesn't. Let's just call it Robbie the cat at this point.
I did catch another screen because he catches that one.
Yeah,
I didn't know if it meant something because he made a noise when he pounced on it, and obviously attacked it, and then it turned into a tiny little colorful like rainbowed butterflies.
Yeah.
I didn't know if that meant something, but I wanted to make sure to capture that because later on, it could.
Yeah. So, of course, here comes the scene from the trailer saying, I sense a butt approaching, which his butt literally walks out and connects back to him. But pretty much, Ruby's saying, hey, we'll be happy to answer your questions, but, that's what he's getting at. And Ruby reassures them that, yes, we need to get to the tree, but it'll take ages, so plenty of time for stories from their world, meaning he can ask all the questions he wants, and that's something that Team Ruby really ends up regretting eventually. But
It just plopped.
yeah, he just plops down. He's ready, and Ruby produces her scroll.
Luminous rectangle.
Yes, he's enchanted by it right away. And of course,
he touches. I loved this because he touched a button and his eyes just got huge.
And he makes a cat noise. But he's like, what's this button do? And he starts taking selfies.
Over and over. Is that what I look like?
Yeah,
Smiling?
he's like, yeah, is that what I look like?
And then
Weiss is like, hook, line, and sinker. And so we skip on, and now this was shown on the Ruby Twitter, and it is this cat going on and on and on and on. Yak, 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 yak. And it's very fourth wall breaking with all...
Because he goes from, like the old man and the boy share a body and, all this stuff, and everyone's just, done.
Another great thing is... It's been so long since I've actually heard her name pronounced. But the character that was Penny's partner in the Vital Tournament, I can't remember how you pronounce her name. It's a simple name, Ciel. Ciel, I guess. She was mentioned, which I know... Ruby did this on purpose because Arnold, Murder of Birds, has been demanding that character come back. He is crazy about that character. So they did this on purpose. But yeah, he's talking about, what, they share a body? Huh, that would bring some inconvenience. Whoever thought that was a good way to reincarnate? Now, this was cute. This is probably... It's not as big as the other moments, but you could consider this maybe a small little Bumblebee moment because it reminds you of two very tired parents laying in bed. The baby starts screaming, and Yang goes, Blake, it's your turn. And Blake is almost falling asleep standing up, and so when Yang shakes her a little bit, she wakes up. And she,
the cat is acting like a curious child.
Yeah.
Which animals do act like children.
and Blake brings up the history of Remnant, and the cat brings up the brothers, the and all that, and also talks about so many characters to keep track of. Though I do think some of the voice work was a little not I forgot exactly what he says, but
wise huntress.
Well, he says the character voices were not very, I'm just going to say energetic, and he says, looking at you, wise huntress. And she's like, it's Weiss.
Just Weiss.
And he apologized. He does apologize.
Yeah, he goes, my apologies.
Yeah,
this is just Weiss.
Yeah. And he says that they know more about Remnant than Alex did.
And that she couldn't see she didn't know it, like, or couldn't see things past the end of her nose. So
Yeah, like
this shocked them a little bit.
I think it was his way of saying she was naive, and just like, and he said that Alex was hilariously concerned with trivial things. Now, of course, in the reaction, I was like, trivial. Trivia Vanille,
Yeah.
Neo's real name, but I'm pretty sure Alex has nothing to do with Neo. I just thought that was a little funny thing, but so I guess it's confirmation that Alex is indeed from Remnant. So that's interesting. And Blake brings up, after he's done kind of burying Alex in a way, Blake does bring up that she learned her lesson in the end. And then we get to what I call the Luminous Mushroom Forest, but it's called the Garden's
Edge of the Garden's Acre.
Acre, okay. And very beautiful setting, but it kind of sets the tone how this episode does a 180 in a way. We go from the bright Mountain Dew sky colored area to
dark glowy things.
Yes. And Yang makes a very interesting point. Like these leaves were animated beautifully. They were very, very beautiful.
And we're seeing them everywhere. So they obviously, we've learned later on, they're leading to keys here. Like,
well, they're also from
things.
the tree.
Yes.
These are leaves from the tree. The cat plays with the leaves,
yeah,
course. And it's interesting. Yang says that the world's put together like a bunch of mixed up puzzle pieces, which kind of goes in with the fairy tale world that we're in.
And then he said, like, the cat had said, each acre is made specifically for its inhabitants.
Yes.
So each acre is, like, specifically to each character, probably also each part of the stories.
Yeah. And so it makes you wonder that maybe many of the inhabitants of the Ever After don't go to the other areas. Team Ruby being an exception because they're not originally from there. The cat also being a very large exception, it seems here. Little may be the only normal inhabitant that has ever traveled this far from their starting area.
Yeah, because we don't know, but there is something later that makes me wonder if a few others have traveled to other areas.
Yeah. Weiss asks, of course, how long till they're regular size. And the cat says probably not much longer, but he does say...
Not much longer. A Grogurt parfait is what they need.
Which sounds completely disgusting. I have no idea. Like, I know it gets made here soon, but Grogurt... Like, it's definitely a play on a yogurt parfait, but... Grogurt, and it's a play on words. Grogurt, grow. It's a callback to the growing potion from Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah, the ones that say, drink me or eat me. That's what those are, but they put a little different wording. Yeah. And
the cat does say not to talk to anyone without him there. So that's a thing to keep in mind of.
Oh yeah, and then he says that they're such troublemakers, and that's when Weiss says, "Well, if we were regular size, we'd probably less trouble."
Yeah.
So she's just they're all pretty done at this point, but.
And then the cat says they should be more worried about the witch than being 6 inches tall, which he is talking about Salem. Yeah.
He even says some of my closest friends are only 6 inches tall. So, I mean, like, he just went on and on about it. Like,
yeah, and like he's like, what was her name again? And starts naming off until he gets it right, Salem. And he's like, how do you really plan to stop her when she's 2 out of 4 relics? He's saying, what can you possibly do now? She's halfway to her goal, which is true. things are not good back home.
No, and the thing is, I mean, because Ruby, like, some of her facial expressions, but I mean, he's honestly just asking a general question just by the stories they told. He doesn't know, this journey could lead them to another key to get ahead. So, like, just general questions, but it's hitting Ruby, obviously, quite a bit.
Well, yeah, because we have no idea what exactly the situation in Vacuo is. Now, back at Beacon in Vale, we know that Ozpin hid the relic in Vale
very well.
Yeah, and like he's the only one that knows how to get to it. Now, of course, that leads us all to believe that retaking Beacon and getting the relic in Vale may be the final battle, but we're not for sure. I could honestly see them doing Vacuo, then return to Vale, and then maybe the final arc. But who knows?
Yeah, because he also says, how will you stop her with Atlas gone?
Yeah. Because Atlas had the biggest military in the world. Which I think, not much a big army can do with an immortal witch who can't die. But if Ironwood hadn't lost it, they still would have had it. They would have at least had something. But now Atlas is gone. It is under the water.
If he wouldn't have lost it, they could have done something and gotten everyone out of there before she even came.
Yeah. And so once again, Yang calls Ruby Rubes and asks her if she's okay. I still can't believe they put this in the show. That is so wild. Because, like I said, I have read a lot of Ruby fan fiction. And almost in every single one of them, people have had Yang nickname Ruby as Rubes. And so I never thought I'd hear it. I never thought I would hear Barbara say Rubes. So that is, I don't know. It's something small, but I just love it. And Blake brings up maybe it's best to not worry about what's going on back home right now because they're already in a situation that they
need to get out of first.
Yeah. And as she's saying this, Yang just suddenly goes, "The cat's gone." And
again.
Yeah, again. And Blake does this cute little bounce. It was really cute. And
again, Ruby's just like, oh no.
Yeah. And then Little decides to pop up and says, "Oh, they saw a bug." And Yang's like,
you just now speaking up to say something. It was a very interesting bug.
And this is so cute. I love Little interacting with the others besides Ruby. Because earlier Yang and Blake, Yang was kind of involuntarily protecting Little, but Blake actively stepped in front to block them. So it's kind of cute seeing them protect Little. So yeah, I really love these interactions. This is the goldfish.
Yeah, Weiss just freaking out.
Well, Weiss starts naming the other figures from the story.
She's like the Carpenter.
Which is based off of the Walrus and the Carpenter, or the Knight. Okay, we got to
said one was sweet, one was handsome.
Yeah, we've got to talk about this. So the Carpenter, if you've not heard the story of the Carpenter and the Walrus, the Carpenter was the good guy, the Walrus was the bad guy. The Carpenter wanted... I forgot the story altogether. I remember it from Alice in Wonderland. Yeah,
they had it in Alice in Wonderland. It was a little bit of a different thing, but
the Walrus pretty much wanted to eat these baby oysters, which he succeeded in doing. One funny little tidbit has nothing to do with Ruby, but John Lennon, when he wrote "I Am the Walrus," it was from the Carpenter and the Walrus, and he said he found, "I am the Walrus, goo goo gachoo." And
one of my favorite songs, by the way.
And John later said, he was like, and then I learned the Walrus was the bad guy. But he's like, I really couldn't call it "I Am the Carpenter." So I thought that was fun. Every time the moment I heard that, I thought of "I Am the Walrus." And the Rusty Knight. Okay, Weiss says one was nice, one was very handsome. So of course the White Knight shippers are like, because it's very much hinted that John is going to be in the role of the Rusty Knight. Will Weiss actually react to that after she said this? I don't know.
But yeah, she said neither one of them had the attention span of a goldfish.
And Little's like, I bet you could find a goldfish in one of these ponds.
And you actually hear her face palm. Like, it was just like, because Little's just like, oh. And Weiss just
And then this very creepy humming starts playing. And like, if I was Team Ruby standing out in the middle of a dark forest and then I heard this, I even said it in their reaction. I was like, well, what's about to eat me? You know? And Blake says that
because they start seeing the garden.
Yeah. Right here. Which, very beautiful. We saw this in the trailers. But yes, it's a large mushroom with a garden, and Blake says it looks like a garden, but where is the humming coming from? Which we all know from the trailer, it's coming from that pile of leaves sitting there. And so they get close. You know, this is where she says, where's the humming coming from? And of course, we see the eyes, and it asks, what are you? And Ruby's like, I am getting really tired of that question. Because Ruby is getting, like, one episode she's depressed, another episode she kind of acts like herself again, and then the last...
her emotions are just every direction.
Yeah, she's going from depressed and sad, maybe, to, like, the chess fight, she was a little energetic, to just straight up annoyed here. So yeah, Ruby's going through it all. And the caterpillar shows up and says...
Well, what question?
Yeah. And they all, you know, of course, scream. Little and Weiss are hugging each other in fear.
Little's ears are even, like, flat back.
Blake is hiding like a cat.
And Yang's ready to fight.
Yeah, Yang has her prosthetic on Ruby. She's like, even though she's 6 inches tall, she's trying to protect Ruby.
Her.
And Yang's like, what are you? But like, if you didn't know the dialogue, it's kind of like Yang is going, no. What is this? No. No, no, no. You like that.
Like, just so much. Yeah, but Blake and...
Yeah, Blake's hiding like a cat. So, he is known as the Herbalist, which is very obvious. Like, he
says he's a herbalist, then he says he's the herbalist.
Yeah.
At least till he's not anymore.
Yeah. Which
the way he chose to say it.
Well, this is going with the purposes and stuff like that. The names being what your purpose is, which makes sense. He's got a garden. This is cute. You know, he's raking up the leaves he messed up. I don't know why he was in there in the first place.
I think the leaves, he's actually picks those ones up.
Okay, I couldn't remember. Which Yang's like, oh good, all the questions answered then. Yang was so...
done.
Like, she's so sarcastic in this episode. Like, you can tell that she's getting tired of all this. Which, once again, Ruby says they need help getting to the tree. Which the herbalist says everyone needs help these days. Which, that's even true in real life. And so, a door opens to this shroom, pretty much. And Ruby and them's like, maybe we shouldn't go in this thing. And he gets impatient and
says, you coming in or you not?
Yeah.
But she asks, you can make a Grogurt parfait, right?
Yeah.
And that's when he asks, are you coming in or not? Like.
Yeah. So we get to see all the stuff he's got. Like, this is from one of the teasers that we got, you know, with the glowing orbs and stuff like that. And then he
starts working and mixing things while talking.
Which I think he is making the Go-Gurt parfait. Oh, look, there's the cheese plants. And he asks about huntresses. And Ruby Yeah.
I showed it because I didn't know, like, it keeps focusing. We get a lot of focus on the leaves, so
Yeah.
I wanted to keep some of those screenshots to, just because it makes sense. Like, I'm feeling it'll make sense more later, too, so.
Yeah. So he asked what a huntress is. Ruby says,
Fights
fight
monsters.
but why does this matter? Which is an attitude Ruby has never really had before. It's once again showing more and more that she is getting very impatient. And he explains that he's an herbalist. He makes meds and remedies to help those in need.
Which, like,
It's what he is.
Yeah, but he also, like, mentions before that he goes, I don't understand how you're not understanding this. Like, the way he's explaining it, how everything works, and then asks again. And Blake answers.
Yeah.
Which she says, huntresses are heroes. We're meant to protect those who can't protect themselves. So, and he just says, thank you.
Yeah. And then asks, are you good huntresses? Which Yang says, can you help us or not?
And he's getting frustrated at
Yeah.
this point.
He's like, I'm trying to, but you're making it more difficult than it needs to be.
And then this is where, like, he really explains things where we're starting to understand what he's doing, even though Ruby's getting a little impatient with this, as they all are. But, when he says, we all have titles, roles to play, but in order to become whatever it is you need to become, you should really have a better understanding of what you are now.
Which that really struck a chord with me during the reaction, because that's literally how anyone is in real life. Because it's like, who you are at, say, age 18 is not who you're going to be by the time you're like 25. Because the human brain does not stop developing until age 25, I believe. And it kind of goes with the theme that Team Ruby is going to change somehow by the time they leave the Ever After. So I think this is kind of foreshadowing, like, how can you expect to be who you're meant to if you don't know who you are yet? Like, it's like looking for a significant other. If you can't stand being on your own and learning more about yourself, what are you going to do with somebody else?
Which also makes sense, though, like, yeah, it's foreshadowing, but right now, like, they also need to come to terms with who they were and who they are this second before they can even continue getting to the tree, too. So, like, this all connects really well, and,
And I believe Wes is like, okay, how do
we get to open Mushroom Door?
Yeah, because, like, you can tell Team Ruby's kind of getting uncomfortable in a way, and
because they're not understanding how he's speaking to them, because they just want to get to the tree. They're not slowing down to think, okay, think about what he's saying. Actually really think about it. Which, I mean,
he says this is how a king winds up a prince. So
that caught me, because I know I heard it in the reaction, but re-listening to it again when I was getting the screenshot, I said, wait a minute. This is how a king winds up a prince.
Yeah.
Which is what I said earlier, which leads me to believe the prince may have been the king.
Yeah.
And he may have come to him.
Yeah.
And done something and caused himself to lapse back. So that's what made me believe that others have traveled to at least certain areas. But that, I was thinking, that was going to come into play later. I really think, because they were all freaking out when they mentioned the king. Like,
yeah. So here's where we get further confirmation that the herbalist is definitely the caterpillar.
Yeah, I took a picture of that for
because
that reason.
He's got a hookah collection like no other, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what's gonna happen? He asks them to please take a seat, and Blake's like, actually, maybe we should get going, right, Ruby? Like, they're all like getting wigged out,
uncomfortable,
and like the door
shuts, and they're all just like,
we're dead, like. And he says, it won't take long, just answer the questions.
What are you?
Yeah. He says, "Are you sure you know? You have to be sure of what you are and what you're going to be," which once again goes right what he said earlier. You have to know who you are before you can eventually be who you're meant to be in life. And of course, I made the joke, oh my gosh, he's getting them high. I think everyone has made this joke now.
Okay, Aaron's Instagram
Yeah.
post, even.
So, smoke fills the room. Ruby actually drops Weiss, Blake, and Yang. I'm surprised that they're okay, because she literally just drops them and falls to the ground. And
I got pictures of each of them before we went into the...
Okay. And yeah, so in the trailer, we already knew about Ruby being confronted by her old self, but we learn in this, all of them go through it. Of course, Yang hollers for Blake, then Ruby.
She tries to holler for Ruby, and then...
she coughs up this smoke, which everybody's already saying, don't do drugs, And out from the smoke comes Beacon Era Yang.
Which tells, her doing that tells me, because of how they go transitioned into all of them back and forth, that all of them did this, and it just came from them.
Yeah. So we're gonna start with Weiss. We're pretty much gonna go in team order: Weiss, Blake, and Yang. So we'll go back. So yes, each one of them is confronted by Volume 1, 2, and 3 era them. So, old Weiss says the Schnee name, why bother anymore?
Yeah, I kind of just, the gist of what she was saying to her, why should you can become a nobody.
Yeah.
You can...
be free.
Yes. And, to be free, all of these ones are towards, the end of the whole thing.
Yeah,
but
because, they skip around. They skip around a lot. Which I really love what Weiss says. I don't know who you think you are, which is it's a very Weiss.
I wrote down a lot of the things because they're really important, to each character.
But that's a very Weiss line. I don't know who you think you are, but let me tell you who I am. That's a boss girl line, big time. I am the granddaughter of a hero, talking about her grandfather, the child of a villain, citizen of a fallen kingdom, heir to nothing. I will not be defined by my name, which that has been Weiss's story for a long time. I'm more than a name. I will be the one to define it. Pretty much saying she wants to create a new name for the name Schnee.
Yeah.
I am Weiss Schnee, and I am a huntress. Now with Blake, it's very interesting. Old Blake says it's simple. You could just be human or just be a cat, which has created a lot of fan art of Cat Blake, if you wanted. Much simpler than being a bridge between human and Faunus. You could be something simpler. Blake says, a simple life wouldn't be my life. My family, my friends, my culture, I belong to them just as much as they belong to me. To give that all away wouldn't be simplicity. It would be a betrayal. I am,
the same thing. I am a huntress.
Yeah, because it skips between each of them. They don't, that's, when we first watch it's oh, this is going to be really hard to analyze because it's jumbled all over. So I was like, let's just do them one by one. Now, old Blake saying being a bridge between human and Faunus, it's is that deep down really what Blake is working towards? She wants to be that connection to bring the humans and Faunus together, which they've not really touched upon since Volume 6.
Yeah.
But if that is true, if that's where they are eventually going to go with Blake, that kind of helps with Bumblebee as well, because how else what else would help a lot in that than her being in a romantic relationship with a human?
Yeah.
You know, to
Another
be
thing,
that bridge.
once we get to Yang's too, is them, like, when we saw Yang cough up all that, like, smoke and it formed into her past self, the past self, the things they're saying, this is all doubts they would have had within. So them confronting it and saying all of this stuff to them and actually, like, hearing themselves say it, that was one of the next steps for them, is to finally, to step past this. Like, this is why I really liked these scenes.
So with Yang, I think old Yang actually says the least amount of stuff. She says, you don't have to go forward, you can go back to be whole again, which she flexes the arm, and Yang looks at her.
Yeah, she said a bunch of things, but it was all around the same thing, and then, you know, again, the separation thing, you gotta be whole again, and that last thing is what gets Yang, and she's, no.
Yeah, she says, no, my losses, my failures are what shaped me into who I am, showed me how I need to grow, which goes back to the training her father gave her after the events of Volume 3. If there is something I'm missing, it's not because I lost it. It's because I haven't found it yet. And the only way to do that is to keep going. I am a huntress. And then we get to poor Ruby. Now, I love how Ruby did this. They have this uplifting music during Weiss, Blake, and Yang's, which I really love that whole scene because it shows the growth that Weiss, Blake, and Yang have had. And then the music just drops once we get to Ruby. And it's almost like she's scared to look at her old self.
Yeah.
So this is part of the trailer that a lot of people were freaking out about when we first saw it. But old Ruby says, so, are you a huntress? So are you a huntress like the ones you read about in books? Always saved the day, always knew what to do.
And then Ruby says life isn't like a fairy tale.
Which goes back to what Blake said in Volume 1. Here's the thing, also. With what happens with Weiss, Blake, and Yang, it is a direct parallel to when Oobleck asked them why you want to be a huntress in Volume 2. They went full circle with that here and showed very different answers.
Very different answers, but now we're the point that they need, again, like I said, them pretty much casting off that things they were holding on to, casting it off now, actually admitting this to themselves. Very different, very grown so much since then. But I mean, there's some things I skipped that I know her old self said, but it was all about the same gist of things, like just how. But did you get to do any of this? Are you doing any of this stuff that you said you wanted to do?
And it's wild because, Ruby is not able to face her Volume 1 self where she was like the picture of happy and confident and, overjoyed to be a huntress. Now this is where old Ruby really cuts a wound. That's right, it's up to you to make things better. Everything depends on you. Everyone needs you, your sister, friends, to keep fighting against an invincible monster that took your mother. Mom was the best, but even she failed.
Which is unfair.
Yeah.
Everything's unfair. Yeah. Like, it kind of sounds like, the past slightly naive Ruby. Like, because since that's her old self, she's obviously still feeling that inside. Clearly she hasn't come to the point where she can really up and face herself like the others did, which, I mean, that's the whole point of this. Like, she's struggling with all of this.
And it really looks like Ruby is just going to wallow in despair because she's not putting up a fight, really. But luckily, the curious cat breaks through suddenly and screams, "Get away from her." So, a lot of people did not trust this cat before this episode.
Because there's a lot of people that were going back to how the Cheshire Cat really is. But if anyone really, if you really think about how things are in RWBY, a lot of things are opposite of their stories.
Well, I wouldn't say the Cheshire Cat was an enemy, though.
No, but he didn't go this far
Yeah.
as he would. Like, he would have just, sat to the side and just appeared. No, he's actually taking a step in and saying, no, you need to get away from her.
Yeah.
Like, don't do this.
Which the smoke clears, and even the herbalist says, "Oh, that was a bit much."
That was a bit much.
So this is very interesting right here. The cat says, "Herb, you're supposed to be helping others find their way, but you lost your own. Let me help and take a little bit of my heart. You'll feel much better." So this was wild because if you remember, he did the same thing to the Red Prince. So the cat giving people pieces of his heart. This sounds very Kingdom Hearts like, but is there a limit? Like, can he give too much?
Yeah, I don't know. I really like it. Seeing this makes
It
me
seems
think
like it seems like it like reprograms people to be how they were supposed to. I don't know. It's
how they're
weird.
supposed to, or like for the prince stunning him, like to make him cry and distract him. But for what you said, I think he's tied to the tree, which is how he's able to do this. How he can go anywhere. He can go to and from the tree himself without anything.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't need anything. But I got this just to show where it went. So, and then he apologized.
Yeah, he says sorry about that. He was always a workaholic. He says Huntresses was it. He said peculiar things.
And then just disappears.
Yep, just disappears, and
I got a few shots of this because of Little.
Yeah, okay. And like everyone's horrified. Like, what is going on here? Little shows up. Turns out Little was asleep the whole entire
Behind
time.
in her hood.
Yeah. And Little just goes, huh? They yawn and goes, oh, I found the cat. And that's where the episode ends. Okay, so
I just like how Little just comes out from Ruby's hair, just, oh, I found the cat. Just the whole thing, just looks around, sniffs, oh. Nothing else.
Which, like I said earlier, the episode started very lighthearted, then got very emotional and dark, but then they ended on a light note with Little. So, little comment here. In this lighting, Ruby's hair looks way more red now.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's probably the lighting, but I
all
noticed
the glowing and lighting in the caterpillar's house, I think, added to that. But
yeah, because her hair looks way redder here than dark with red tips.
Neon and glowing lights do a lot of funky things to colors. Like, even if you look at the others, some of the colors on them are a lot brighter than they normally would be.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's another thing I like about the animation, though. They're reflecting the colors around them to actually show on them too. So
really good episode. There's a lot of good facial animation in this episode, especially if you pay attention to Weiss, Blake, and Yang. Especially when they're not really being the focus of. You can really tell that. I'm surprised none of them's gotten sick in Ruby's hood yet from all the moving. But hopefully they return to their normal sizes very soon. In the credits, they literally labeled them Tiny Weiss-Schnee, Tiny Blake Belladonna, and Tiny Yang Xiaolong, which was pretty funny. But a good episode overall. And we've got episode 5 coming up this weekend. We're already halfway through all that waiting for volume 9, and it's already almost halfway over. Who knows the wait after that. But hope y'all enjoyed it. Sorry once again that this was so late. If you did enjoy it, please hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, click that like button, leave a comment. As always, guys, this is Kanan.
this is Jesse.
We love you all very, very much. Stay safe out there. Take care of yourselves, and we will see you in the next one.
Bye.
Bye.